Good evening. This is John Warren, publisher of the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint newspaper, coming to you with our program from the desk of the editor. We are excited about having another opportunity to have an open mic discussion with you, and we invite you this evening as we go into a number of issues to feel free. You may contact us at 858-251-6111, or you may go to godradio1.com and express your views, questions, or concerns, and we will get you involved in the conversation. Again, I'm joined by Dr. Leonard J. Thompson III as we come with this open mic because the motto of the Voice and Viewpoint is that a people without a voice cannot be heard. And we're here to be that voice, and we have a number of issues to be a voice on, and we invite you to join in and share your concerns. Dr. Thompson.
Well, Dr. Warren, good evening to you. Very excited to be here on another Wednesday. So much is going on around the world, but I want to first start off by thanking the listeners for your support as we are now in the final ballot of the Stellar Awards, and we're up for Internet Station of the Year. That is worldwide. And I must thank the city of San Diego and the people that have listened all over the country. This is the first time in the 5 other times that we were up for this award that we actually made it to the final ballot. So like in the Grammys, they say we are going to be going to the big dance.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. And another thing that I'm looking at is, there is so much happening around the world. We are seeing it. We're in graduation season. And we've been very fortunate overall that we have not had really terrorists or things taking over graduations that have caused physical harm to people, but we have had a lot of graduations interrupted in protest. Let's talk about that. Let's start off with that in the Hamas-Israel war that's taking place.
Well, the Voice and Viewpoint has covered the campus disturbances such as the one at UCSD. We covered it in real time, just like CNN, and we put a post up of the removal activity on the part of police, and we, in a 24-hour period, we had over 1,000 views of the post that we uploaded. And so, there was a demonstration, a march to the chancellor's home, and people were calling for his resignation. And of course, he's the kind of person who standing fast on his rationale for calling the police and not talking to people as he could have. And so we have issues. The graduation, I believe it was at UC Berkeley, was interrupted briefly. USC had canceled their graduation exercise. And it does not go without notice that many of the young people who would have been graduating this year were the same people who missed their graduation 4 years ago because of the pandemic. So they've missed two such opportunities, if you will. And this is quite significant. The matter has gone beyond just discussion of Hamas and Gaza because there's still the demand to get the aid in. Netanyahu is stepping up the movement of troops into Rafah in the southern Gaza area. The president said he was going to withhold arms shipment, and yet I think 1,000 pounds of military stuff has been shipped in the midst of what's taking place. And so I believe that it's tragic to watch an American president who's willing to sacrifice his presidency for a relationship with Israel when Israel seems to be guilty of all kinds of humanitarian violations. And it's reached a point where one could say there's not a great deal of difference between what Israel is doing to the people of Gaza and what the Hamas did to the Israeli people on October 7th. And so two wrongs do not make a right. And we are still here trying to bring people to the table. As you know, we have a Stop the Hate program, and we have involved people both from the Palestinian perspective and the Israeli perspective. In our last town hall meeting, we have another one scheduled for the 23rd. And that meeting on the 23rd is bringing people together from a variety of ethnic communities. We're hoping this time that there will be more African American and African participation. There was African participation before. This meeting on the 23rd is going to take place at the Live Well Center at Market and Euclid. And we expect quite a few people for it. We're not going to stream it, but we're going to record it, and we're going to air it just like we did the last one that we had. And so these are things we're getting ready for. We're moving toward the 28th when we're going to have another Biscuit, Grits, and Politics. This one is going to discuss mental health and its implications in reference to hate. The meeting on the 23rd is going to be dealing with law enforcement, hate, healing and solutions to hate crimes. And so these things were planned long before this activity took place, and it's galvanizing people coming forward. And we're working to be as inclusive as we possibly can. You're involved with it in terms of GOD Radio and a separate project as we work collaboratively trying to bring these two things together.
Amen. Amen. Now, some people say that there has been an assassination attempt on the prime minister. Did you hear anything about that?
No, I have not. On Netanyahu?
On the, I think a Slovakian prime minister.
No, well, I have not heard of that. But those. I'm surprised we haven't had more attempts before now, in terms of what's going on. The U.S. Scenario that they build off at sea on the ocean side of Gaza, so that they can that platform, so they can bring relief in, is completed, and they're working on getting aid into Gaza. But if they put everything they could into Gaza every day, I don't know if it would be a drop in the bucket at this point. It's already a humanitarian crisis in terms of people. Famine is real there. People and children especially are dying every day. The doctors that have gone in to give services, many of them can't even get out now because of what's taking place. And they're reporting that they don't have the resources to treat people, and things that people could be healed and cured from, they're now dying from because there are not supplies and equipment to help them.
Well, Dr. Warren, I think one of the questions that we have to come up with now, are we so numb with information that we're really just totally not connected? I find that there's so much going on that you seem to get sidebar with so many different things that you don't get anything. Between the president doing what he's doing to the former president and all the trials and everything that's going on, yet we still see hate crimes. We got wars in more than just Israel, but in smaller wars in other places. How do we get people to re-engage or to engage and not be overwhelmed with the negativity that they're hearing?
Well, this is a human nature factor that we've seen from a media standpoint for many, many years. People get numb after they hear so much. There are other issues in the world. There's the drought in the Sudan, starvation levels. The crops are not there because of climate change. Areas that used to export grain now literally waiting for handouts in terms of trying to sustain people and keep them alive. And I think that what's happening is that the demand is becoming so great that after a while it's almost like a triage in a crisis. You can't help but so many people, and if you aren't careful, you'll get numb from the magnitude of the people that are there. It's just a real crisis, and that's not all. I mean, we got problems with Russia and Ukraine, with Russia moving in and taking stuff and not trying to get the aid to Ukraine that should have been there. We don't know if it's going to get there in time to help. If the morale of the troops can be reignited. The president has canceled Ukraine has canceled all his travel and everything in terms of trying to be there to deal with boots on the ground. Meanwhile, Putin is in China for a 2-day visit because China is giving Putin all of the supplemental aid that he needs based on things that Russia is missing due to the embargoes against them. So there's much happening in the world. And I think a lot of people here at home are of the position that we have homelessness here. We have inflation. We have crises in terms of food and shelter, gasoline prices. And so people are getting concerned that we are sending billions, but they can't see billions being spent on our own domestic programs. And I think that's going to open the door for the other concern that we have as we move through all of the trials of Donald Trump and Biden wanting to do a debate now. I think that in spite of possible jail time, the orange jumpsuit, Trump is gaining momentum. And a poll shows, one of the most recent polls show that if the election was held today, Trump would win. In spite of what's happening in New York. And we also have an unprecedented situation where the Speaker of the House, who is number 2 in line for the presidency, Johnson, went to New York along with a delegation, all of them wearing their red ties, to step out in front of the courthouse and to lambast the judge and his family. That was them saying, Mr. Trump, you can't speak, so we'll do it for you. And so, and they're still, they're with a clear face, they're echoing the big lie. They're saying that Trump won. They know he didn't win. They know what happened on January 6th, and they're saying it didn't happen. So it's almost surreal to watch people who are in leadership roles in government, who hear and understand what really is happening. I mean, the media can show you in news clips that we're better off today than 4 years ago when Trump wanted the people to start drinking all kind of strange stuff and wasn't dealing with the crisis. And yet they say, no, it didn't happen. And this is a crisis.
One of the things that I would just really encourage the Democratic Party to do is they really need to bring the best people and their best think tanks together to really come against this social media frenzy of Donald Trump. The sad thing about it is that even with the vice president, the biggest thing that they have been talking about the vice president is that she used an expletive when she was talking to a group of students. And my whole thing is that if that's all we got to report at this point, that means that the Democratic Party is literally laying down and giving up the office before it even gets started. They're going to have to really, really engage at this point. And then Trump is going to, not Trump, but Biden's going to have to come out much stronger than he is now. He is being too docile at this point.
Well, it's even more than that, Dr. Thompson. If it wasn't for the black vote and what happened with Clyburn in South Carolina coming out, Biden wouldn't even be president. And he seems to have forgotten that along the way. And that's why when he goes to Morehouse this week to give the commencement address, and there was a movement to give him an honorary doctor of letters and laws degree, the faculty, which has to vote, is moving in the direction of not conferring that degree, saying that Biden has not done all he could with John Lewis or the George Floyd Act. And I've said that for someone who spent 37 years in the Senate and 2 terms as vice president, who sat back and let the filibuster block the benefits that we needed, but yet got energized when the Supreme Court overruled Roe v. Wade, that he does not give us the respect that we should have. And what he doesn't understand is that he can lose, and at the rate it's going, I'm predicting that he will lose, because in addition to what we already have going on, now in Texas, we have Robert Kennedy's son, Robert Kennedy Jr., who needed 100,000 votes and signatures. He turned in 200,000 to get on the ballot in Texas. A third person would be a spoiler. And Biden doesn't have any votes he can lose because the 5 states that Trump is leading him in the polls were 5 states that he won last time.
Yeah.
And so even though the women are going to be voting as they have, turning against what the Republicans did, and we see that as they deal with the abortion issue, the elephant in the room is the black male vote.
Yeah.
And black males are gravitating toward voting for Donald Trump. And as one of my publishers, his sons told him in a family meeting, and he was sharing it when we were on in a conference. His son is 26 and said, you know, my generation, we don't know nothing about civil rights. Okay, and we know Donald Trump, and we're looking at Donald Trump from the standpoint of giving us, tax cuts and breaks and benefits, and they're not concerned about the rest of what Trump is proposing through that planned Project 2025 that the Heritage Foundation has put out, because they don't know government. They haven't been taught government. They don't care about the separation of powers.
Yeah.
They don't care about the legislative angle in terms of how the Republicans are controlling the House, which is the part of the unit that has to certify the election after it's done.
Yeah.
And it has to be done through the Electoral College. They don't care about any of that.
Yeah.
And so this is a problem.
And you know, one of the things about it, but there's certain things that I think that the generation that says they don't know anything about civil rights, they should know some simple things. And one key word that I think is called loyalty. And one of the things that we have found out about Donald Trump is that he is only loyal until you have to correct him. And when you correct him, that's when he becomes disloyal and he will throw you underneath the bus. Now, me personally, and I say this all the time, he always says crooked Joe Biden, right? You know, and from my standpoint, you know, I think that the Democrats should start calling convicted felon, you know, Trump, you know, abuser Trump. You know, they should use those same adjectives that he's always calling Joe and Kamala and everything else. His whole thing is disrespectful. And as young people, anytime that you get behind someone that is disrespectful, that means that you're one off from being disrespected yourself.
Well, Dr. Thompson, it's too late for that, okay? To engage in exchange of name calling at this point with Trump is not going to make any difference, all right? The bottom line is the Democratic National Committee, which is the counterpart to the Republican National Committee that's now under the leadership of Trump's daughter-in-law, and they're controlling it. And yes, there are Republicans that are going to vote for Biden because they realize, like Liz Cheney's book, you know, speaking about honor and the dangers of Trump, or like Trump's niece. And there are people who understand that if Donald Trump were to get into the White House again, he would not leave. All right. He's already got the Supreme Court in his hip pocket. He would have the executive branch. And if the Republicans don't do if the Democrats don't do something to take back the leadership of the House of Representatives, he will have all 3 units of government under his control. The Constitution will be null and void for all intents and purposes. Democracy as we know it will be dead. And it will be dead with the violence that will follow, and the MAGA element feeling vindicated by putting him in office, and therefore the acts of physical violence against people of color will intensify, and America will continue to slide downhill to this self-destruction. And I always remind people that history shows us, global history, that 21 of the great societies in the history of the world have collapsed from within, and we're headed in that direction. So what do? Well, let me take California as an example. The Democrats only want to spend money in battleground states. The Democrats should be spending money with all the black media throughout this country because we're the ones closest to people. But they have made the decision that we don't count, that they can cherry pick and spend money on the East Coast in Georgia and in Florida and Alabama and those places, and out here is blue, but yet we have Republicans who have won in Northern California seats, and right now the Republican control of the House is no more than 2 to 3 votes. And so, yeah, we just had a black woman win the Democratic nomination for senator of Maryland, which now has a black governor, and they could have that. But she has a battle against Larry Hogan, who is former governor and one of the darling Republicans of the state. And so we're not dealing with this on a national scale.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day is that we have to have some wake up juice and realize that the sky's not blue everywhere. We cannot just go through life and think that it doesn't matter who becomes president. At this point, we're going to have to continue to be active. We're going to have to continue to press the mark. And even where Donald Trump is concerned, I'm not going to even talk about his character and who he is as an individual. I'm just really just talking about his policies. And we as African Americans have to challenge any person that is in office, be it from your local all the way up to your national, about literally representing our interests as well. Do not take us for granted. And I have to say this, and I want to do a quick a sidebar, and that is to the president of the NAACP, Derek Johnson. Bought, sealed, and delivered. So they don't think that they have to spend money with all the rest of the black organizations as long as they get the support of the NAACP. And my energy is, but are they really being the voice of the community anymore?
Well, Derek Johnson is a paper tiger, even within the ranks of the NAACP on a national.
I'm sorry, Dr. Warren, let me interrupt you. What's a paper tiger?
A paper tiger, you can cut out a tiger, and it might look like one, but it don't have no teeth. There's nothing it can do.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, okay. So you got a piece of paper, but it ain't got no teeth. It can't do nothing. And so that's what Derek Johnson is. He's like the neutered gelding, if you will. People are complaining about his 400,000+ salary,
making more than the president.
Yep, and here we have people serving the NAACP on a national basis from a volunteer standpoint. They're not getting paid.
Yeah,
people are doing this because they care, and he's out there putting units in receivership and taking money and flexing his muscles and all kinds of graft and corruption in his own organization down there in Mississippi. He should be under investigation just like Trump in terms of what he's doing. But I mean, poor people can't fight but so many battles at once.
Yeah.
And, people working 2 and 3 jobs, they're trying to feed their families, they're trying to have daycare. They're dealing with high gas prices and food prices. And I was reminding someone that one of the things that can help Biden lose, in spite of all of the progress that we see, they have not promoted this progress the way they should have. And Stacey Abrams lost her bid for governor of Georgia because she put all of her energy into the abortion issue, but she didn't deal with the black male issue. And the black males were the ones saying, hey, Biden ain't doing nothing for us.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris certainly doesn't have the strength of character and personality to do anything. And part of the reason that people don't want to see Biden as president because they think if he dies that she's going to step in. They don't want to see that. So we got issues, and I'm still have a place at the desk of the Voice and Viewpoint with voter registration cards. Nobody is stopping by to pick up one. People are not registering here to vote. Elements like the Urban League, the NAACP, BAPAC, if they're doing voter registration, I don't know about it because they certainly are not in touch with us in terms of community media. And it's going to be too late the day before the election.
Yeah.
We should be organizing now in terms of getting people registered.
And I think that's the biggest thing that, and moving forward, this challenging all the different organizations. I focus on the NAACP mainly because they can have the big image awards and have a star-studded thing for fundraising and all this. I spend millions of dollars over there. They pay their president all this money. If you want to be on the board, you have to pay a fee to even run for the board. I think it's $2,000 or $3,000, and then you have to pay so much. But it's like, I want the prestige. But now we got to talk about the ineffectiveness of all the different branches around the countries that are being suspended, how many people are going against litigation against them, even though some of their bylaws say you can't sue the NAACP if you've been a part of their board or whatever, all of these different things. And so the NAACP internally is now struggling with the fact of discrimination, bullying, sexism. And if they don't get it right and clear shop, they're going to be even more ineffective moving forward.
Well, it's even bigger than that, Dr. Thompson, because historically, especially in San Diego, the NAACP and the Urban League were major units in the civil rights struggle. The people out of the Urban League were responsible for overturning the restrictive covenants that were in land that was blocking houses being sold to black people. Mm-hmm. Major things have been done. I noticed this year when the National Urban League put out their State of Black America, in the past history, there was an effort to disseminate that to the communities. We have not seen anything. If we didn't take an initiative to try and look ourselves, mm-hmm. it's not happening. And it seems like, with all due respect, that the organization has created a bubble of who it serves and reaches around it. They've got their mailing list and their 21,000 folks, whoever they reach with their newsletter and email stuff. They moved from in the community over to University in Fairmont. There was a time when they were on Market Street that at least they had a storefront and people could walk in. Yeah. Now, you got to park, you got to pay, you got to do all kinds of things to reach out. And other people are taking note of what we don't have happening mm-hmm. in terms of outreach.
Yeah, and one of the things that I am seeing the organizations now starting to have these type of conversations about, for so long, many times we've had to go into silos because, people really did not really want to work together. But I think that moving forward, we don't have a choice but to start working together and expand our silos into community. I know for a fact that GOD Radio 1 is much stronger because we are also with the Voice and Viewpoint. And I think that as we're starting to come together, other organizations come alongside, and before we know it, we can be strong. But again, I always tell people that is, how do we do our mindset? I had a text message that came today from a young man that I met at one of the local meetings, and he was telling me about his vision and what he wanted to do. A lot of the stuff that he was talking about, we did back in the day. And I got very, very excited about this young man, and he told me about his thing, and I said, okay. And I connected him, walked away. What I appreciated about this young man is every connection I sent him to, he followed up on. But then not only did he follow up, but he then sent me notes back. This is what took place. This is what took place. Then I started connecting them with other young people, and they're like, oh man, this. And because of us starting to now giving out the information and using the resources, I've watched these young people pull in grants and things that would normally go to the wayside because nobody applies for them. So I think the vision that definitely that we have in our partnership, and as well as the other people that we're gaining partnership with, is that we're going to be stronger together. And as we begin to be stronger together, it is a give and a take. You know what I'm saying? It's not like we give, and there's no give back. It's always about how do we work collectively together. When the Lord blesses my table, then I want to make sure that you at the table eating too, and not just, they would say if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Yeah, well, Shirley Chisholm used to say if you're not at the table, grab a chair and pull it up and make yourself a seat.
Yeah.
And so these are issues, but you and I know, especially when I look at Black Men and Women United, and the 20-some years almost that we have made this voluntary service available to the community, we still have a scenario where people respond when they have a need. But the whole idea is one should be there to be of service before your own need surfaces. Because, we have always had people show up wanting to do infomercials about their own interests, but they don't show an interest in what we're doing or the conversation. And many times, like our meeting this past week, we were talking health, we're talking general information sharing with each other because that's what we need to do. That's what other people do. And we don't always have to be on a call just because we have a personal interest and we there to make our interest known, but not listen to what others have to say.
Yeah, and I think that's the key thing is that, like you said, we can't just come around when we're in crisis. We have to be engaged totally all the time. And by being engaged doesn't mean that you're going to be at every meeting and everything else. But if you tap into your resources within your community when you need to call on them, this is not something that is new because they already know you. They see that you're doing. And there are times that the community has crisis. Like right now in San Diego, we're looking at budget. And not everybody is going to go down to the meetings and be there and protest or speak out. But because of technology, the one thing I love about it, somebody said that I always ask people, how are you getting to all these meetings and everything? And they said, the beautiful thing about these meetings is they're all recorded. And you can go back when you washing clothes and doing the dishes and everything and put things on and be able to catch up and listen, even though you might not be able to be there, and then give strategic planning and thought to it. And then you can write to the desk of the editor or to the editor at the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint and say, hey, you know what? I got an opinion. And send your letter in. And I always tell people, that means you have to write, you have to type, but send your letter in. And many times your letter is reviewed and published in the newspaper. So your voice is not just heard just because you were on a Zoom call, but now it is a part of permanent history.
Well, we're trying to get people to understand that because from a public policy standpoint, policy is made by people speaking out, collating, coming together and pushing from interest to pressure to results. And we have to learn the process because we assume that everybody knows it and everybody does not know the process. We are always open to having meetings. We can have discussion groups. Following the Million Man March, we had the local organizing committees meeting every week, and we come out for a period of time and then we go away. We've had committees over the past 15 years within Black Men United, from education to political to economic, and all these committees that we've had require people to sacrifice some personal volunteer time to make these things happen. Now, you mentioned the budget crisis. The mayor has restored some budget cuts. He's put some things back. Equity has not been put back in place. And I don't know if that's as important as we say it is, how we still don't have that restored, but we got, no shots fired or whatever restored and all of these other things and cannabis and, access for all restored that involved the Wi-Fi availability that the city was contributing to along with the Library Foundation. And so we're getting some things back, but we still have to have a balanced budget, and we still need to be concerned and involved beyond just our point of interest. We got to know what the interest is of the other areas of the city, and how do we coalesce with other districts. So when we show concern for helping other people, they will be concerned about helping us. And at the end of the day, it's still going to take 5 votes.
Yeah. Let me ask you this question, and this is going back to the floods and the storm drains and the storm waters. What is the true need for those storm drains? Because, we see some storm drains, we see trees and foliage and all that grown up in the storm drains. But is it just that, or is it even the underground? Is there a need for for the city to be able to literally go underground and clean up all the way underground? Or are we just talking
No.
about the part
No,
that we
no,
see?
you have to understand that the drains were put there in the first place because even during construction, people realized that there was going to be runoff coming down from the mountains. All the water seems to make its way to the sea, okay, just like the San Diego River. And so, no, that's a reality. The flooding was so bad because of the backup. They've cleared the drains. They put the bags there when the storms come and the people are out there, but there's still no guarantee because you can't predict the magnitude if you have one of those rivers, atmospheric rivers come through, because the water can rise so fast. You can see what happened in Texas. I mean, they got flooding down there. Then you got we had the hint of a couple of hurricanes. Tornadoes haven't come through here yet, and so 695 houses were damaged, and the few thousand people have been relocated. Then at the end, when the money ran out for the hotels, those people, many of them can't go back into their homes, even if they stripped the drywall and treated the wood and got the mold out. They still don't have the resources to put the house back together in terms of being a livable environment.
Yeah.
And so, and the good news is that that emergency flood rescue team is still meeting every Monday at the Jackie Robinson Y. All those committees are still hands-on trying to service people. In some instances, the city and the county have walked away and aren't doing anything, but they're not abandoning the folks, and that's significant.
So, just this in historical purposes, if we clean all the storm drains and an atmospheric river comes through again, we're going to have the same result. Am I right?
We could, depending on the magnitude, because we had atmospheric rivers before come through 2 years ago. That's how we ended up moving out of that drought crisis. But we don't know how severe it's going to be.
Well, could we say that in building the properties or building the houses, they knew that they were below the floodplain and the houses should have never been built at that level or should have been built up higher? Because just as the example of the Jackie Robinson YMCA, they literally had to take it up 6 feet before they could start building because to bring it above the floodplain.
Well, that's because they had the foresight to elevate it because they realized that channel was right there behind it. And so that's what saved them. The field might have flooded, but that's what saved the building.
Yeah.
But, if you talk about people thinking ahead, if you look at Mission Valley, if we had a real earthquake all along 8, where those houses are down and what was the river base, if we had a strong enough quake, all of that would liquefy and all those homes would be gone. They were just gone underground. It would all be over. Or you look at going up the coast where the cliffs are coming away and houses are collapsing. I mean, people knew when they built that there was a possibility of those things. Or you just look, when you go west and you look up to the south and you see these houses up on the hill toward the Mission Valley area on stilts and hanging over the cliffs and stuff. All those places can come tumbling down. But the people go ahead and take the chance and they build saying it's not going to happen. And so that's why the insurance companies are fleeing and they don't want to be here. The state doesn't have the extra money to put there. I don't know how you sell property to someone when they know that what could possibly happen. Why would they buy it and exchange places with you? So we got a lot of crises. That's the crisis for people who have home ownership. But for people who are unhoused and unsheltered, they're not worried about that. They're worried about what's going to happen the next time while we're trying to get this shelter with 1,000 beds. And the places that we have, like the one place that flooded where we had already put these tents on pallets and stuff. So all of these weather-related issues are part of climate change, and we are not addressing it fully. And it's predicted to get even worse.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing that, I think we as a city, we as communities have to be able to be very mindful of, that the energy in our states and our nation There's just so many different things that are taking place, and I believe that we become numb to it. I think about how many shootings that take place every day throughout the United States, to the point now that it doesn't even make major news.
Well, let's we change gears quickly for a moment. We had the young airman in Florida that was killed by the sheriff's deputy, and suspension. There's been Trump again. I did an editorial this week, and it's entitled "Black Males and Law Enforcement Encounters," and I put out a list of things that, especially if you are living while black, there are things that you should not do if you find yourself having any law enforcement encounter. Okay, this man was killed in his house. They got the wrong house. They had a complaint, and I guess they heard a woman screaming. He had only been home for a little while by himself. His girlfriend wasn't there, so it was clearly the wrong place. The sheriff's deputy on the video cam did not identify himself when he first knocked on the door. The second time he said, "Sheriff," the young man opens the door with the gun in his hand at his side, and he ends up getting shot 6 times. And they kill him right on the spot. Okay, wrong house again. The Breonna Taylor situation all over again. Wrong house. The boyfriend don't know who you are. You didn't identify yourself, so you break in. He meets you with gunfire because he's protecting his house or her house because they're there. She ends up getting killed. Then we had the situation in 2018 in Texas where Brotham Jean, the young man, was in his apartment, and Amber Geiger, the off-duty policewoman who lived in the building, went to the wrong apartment. She got off on the wrong floor. Some of us have done that before. She goes in the apartment. I don't know if he had his door unlocked or open or what. She thinks she's in her place. She sees a black man. She kills him. And then they proved that you couldn't have made that mistake. You didn't have a plan outside your door. He had a plan outside of his. She got convicted. They gave her 10 years. The judge made her sentence start right then at that point of conviction. She made appeals. She lost all of the appeals. She was convicted of murder, and she lost all of that. And guess what? Now she's in the 7th year of her prison term. She's eligible for parole this year. Well, he can't get parole from the cemetery. He's still in the grave. So my message to black men is, if you have a law enforcement encounter, number one, don't argue, don't resist, do what you're told, keep your hands in plain view, don't reach for your phone or your wallet or anything, because you're already considered armed and dangerous by virtue of being black. And they just need an excuse to shoot you. And no matter what the stop is, like the other young man in Minnesota over a traffic ticket, he gets killed in the course of an argument and confrontation. These officers know what they're doing when they provoke you with disrespect and rudeness to an argument, and then they make it escalate. And by the time that you speak up, now you're belligerent, and they're going to put hands on you. And when people put hands on you, you are going to instinctively pull back or resist. Now you have stepped up to a felony. You're resisting arrest. Next, you're going to be arrested. Let's hope you live to get to the station. All right? And so my issue is, whatever they say, whatever takes place, tail light, you're too fat, you're too ugly to be behind the steering wheel, go along with whatever they say so that you can live another day. And when you do file a report, you want it to be the next day because it's after his shift. You want it to also go to the state attorney general office as well as to the local station. And you want to stay on it in writing until you find some results. Because I've had situations even in Florida where we publish of people, policemen breaking in, shooting or killing someone or being in the wrong house. They fire him, and then they help him get a job in another county somewhere else in the state. So they just relocate the problem. And so we are responsible, folks, for our attitude. We need to understand that, as we told Chief Charlotte on our call the other day, We're not saying that all police officers are bad, but everybody in a uniform is not there to protect and serve. If you are black, you are guilty of living while black, and you can be terminated or executed for any reason whatsoever. And the number of murders that we've had so far suggests that the police do not care about public opinion, image, or whatever is going to go on until we get wise to do something about it.
My question is that how then in this climate are we going to begin to hold law enforcement accountable? And I look across the board, not just with the police, but I'm also looking at the in custody deaths that we're seeing every single day in the prison system. How are we going to literally hold them accountable? And I think you mentioned something the other day where we have drugs coming into the prison, and the only people that are not being searched coming in and out
Are the deputy sheriffs.
are the deputy sheriffs.
And we know for a fact that all indications are that some of them are bringing the drugs because everybody else is searched, mail is searched, packages are searched, and so who else is walking in the prison unsearched? The guards are, okay. And part of the problem, we have a sheriff here who is a part of the old system, and that's why they made sure she got elected to perpetuate what was already going on. We do not stay involved. I want to give Tasha Williams some really special kudos because she stays on top of whatever is happening. Just like the sister that was out at Las Colinas and 6 months pregnant and was not getting the care, and the letters were generated, and the sheriff's department comes back and talk about all the prenatal care that they have in the system and the whole bit. But yet we have indications of people who've died in custody. Their pleas for help were ignored by the sheriff. They're inhumane, insensitive. I have found that once you find yourself in contact with law enforcement, and God don't let you get arrested, once you get arrested or you're in a position to be booked, you are automatically treated as if you are guilty from that point on. Everything is done to be hostile. We saw this happen with the people who were being arrested in the protests, that people weren't given of coming off the campuses, breaking up the encampments. People were being manhandled. People weren't being given first aid. They weren't being given water or medical attention because once law enforcement steps in, they take the position that their authority is to treat you any way they see fit. And so they will treat you in the most inhumane manner, almost punishing you because they have to be there to work. Until we get concerned enough to stay on this issue the same way we stay on the protest issues, we're not going to get change. And I'm sorry, but that's the reality. Very real. Again, this evening, we always remind folks that you can call in 858-251-6111 or go to godradio1.com, and we have comments coming in on the internet from those of you who are watching and listening. But we do want to step it up to the next level in terms of putting many of your concerns on the air, and we can do that, and we can put you on the air if you call in and you indicate that you want to be heard. Yes.
And we actually have a caller that's calling. I'm trying to get him in. Caller, can you hear us? Caller, can you hear us? Let me do this again. Caller, can you hear us? Okay, caller. I think that you had just called in just recently. You say you're a young African American, and you want to talk about the disconnect or the proposed disconnect.
Comment on the disconnect that the youth is having, and I could speak to it from personal experience. I'm 31. I didn't live through the civil rights era, but I'm also old enough to know about it. So it's not like these younger kids here that they don't really know much about it. I'm old enough, I've been around at least long enough to know. Like my father, when he was born, black people didn't have the right to vote. So it's like, I see it from a unique perspective. What I'm seeing is that there's not much true outreach to provide opportunities for young black people, and I feel like they know this. And so it's like where's the NAACP when it comes to helping somebody come into like better their life? You see them when it's like a tragedy. You see them when something's going wrong. That's when you call. That's Jackson Al Sharpton. When you're discriminating. But what are they doing to build people up? To build young leaders?
Well, I'd like to answer your question.
And I can only speak from personal experience. Like I remember being 18 years old, trying to be really ambitious, want to be a leader in my community. What could I do? I tried to connect with the NAACP. I really did, and no real opportunity. Nothing that they're doing to produce leaders. And so that's how I could see, and a lot of people that I know as well say the same thing as far as like the young people that I talk to. And it's like they feel like there's a disconnect. They feel like they don't really have their genuine interest in mind. I mean, in the case with me, I looked up like NAACP San Diego doesn't even exist. There's a North County, but where we are right now, if you look it up on the website, it's not even a legitimate website. I try to call them, there's no one there. And so it's like people, the younger people, I could see it like there's like a disconnect between like the civil rights era. I feel like, oh yeah, a lot of the leaders we had were killed or they were taken away. So it's like we don't really have the same spark that we could have had. Or like imagine if Dr. King was still alive, or if like Fred Hampton was still alive. There's so many great leaders that were born during that era, but I just feel like once you got rid of so many leaders, I feel like there's just been a big disconnect, and nobody stepped up to fill that role.
Well, Dr. Warren, I'm gonna let you speak on it, then I'll jump in.
Well, I want to say several things to you. That first of all, I've always reminded people that the NAACP, even when it was functioning here as a membership organization, it didn't have staff. It had volunteers, and so many of the people, the membership was between $20 and $30 a year, because everybody didn't go and do lifetime achievement, and the people have always demanded our service from the organization, but you have to be a member of it to make it work. Now, unfortunately, in recent years, this local chapter has gone into receivership, which means that it's being controlled outside of San Diego, and they don't have the website. The office is supposed to be there. The Voice and Viewpoint doesn't hear from the NAACP, and so the things that it used to do, it no longer does. But what you have to do is, where one element doesn't serve your interest, you have to find another element that does. Okay? And if you find that none of the elements are serving your interest, then you pull together a group of like people, decide what issue you all are going to impact, and then you find out, how do we go about doing it? I mean, when we have Black Men and Women United, we have over 120 some people that are members. We encourage people, if they want to be a part of what we do, it's involuntary. There's no cost. It's a weekly Zoom meeting. You have to call the Voice and Viewpoint, give your email address so that you can get the link to be on the meeting. But we don't publish the link because people hack meetings and all kinds of things take place. And so these are, you have to have a patient interest, that you know what you want to do, but you also have to be around long enough to see what others are doing. You just can't go to a meeting and say, well, they ain't doing nothing and I'm not going back. If they're not doing something, you have to get involved in terms of trying to make change, but you have to pick what organization or what group of people you're going to expend your energy with that's going to be best served. And that's the fundamental thing. And I want you to know that the point that I just made to you, that's the point at which we lose most people, because they don't want to take those additional steps.
And in addition, I would say that there's no, back in the day, especially in the civil rights era, there was always the look at of having just one voice or one group of people that we always go to. Today, with the full diaspora of what we do and how we serve, it's about building that support. So there's a first step many times might be your church, getting active in your church, and then that's one network. The next one might be the Urban League or the NAACP, or Black Men and Women United. You start building your network. Stay tapped in by having the Voice and Viewpoint and listening to your GOD radios and other informational pieces, and you'll find out that there are a lot of like-minded people that are coming together. It's just not that one stop fits all at this point. But I think the one thing about it is that there's still a desire for young and old to come together. And I'm excited to have an opportunity to meet with you and to see how we can do it better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that building is everything. We need to be able to bridge that gap because there's so much wisdom to be learned, and there's so much opportunity that's being lost by not being able to connect with the younger people where they are. It's easy to say, yes, you guys got to do this, but as an older person, even I'm looking at the 18 plus crowd, it's like you have to reach them where they are. They're online. They're going to events. It's like we have to be able to send them the message in a way that they can understand it. If that makes sense. I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of people get caught up in their own perception of how they want to reach someone. You know?
Yeah.
I could say I want to reach this person. I just want them to come over this way. Come to this group. I'm talking about like there's people that are just like.
Well, let me say this to you.
Yeah.
Let me say this to you, and would love to continue this conversation offline. The one thing that that we're consistently doing, especially at Mandate Records, GOD Radio, and the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint, is having an open door policy and giving opportunities for us to connect. One of the biggest things is that we have interns, and we have offered opportunities to young people to say, hey, come in, sit down, tell us what you want to do. We want to give you a voice. We want you to be a part of it. So I think we just have to continue to press that information out there. And it sounds like you are one of those people that can be greatly involved. So we definitely want to invite you to let your voice be heard with Black Men and Women United. Hit up the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint. But also we want you to come to Biscuits, Grits, and Politics that is happening on the 28th at the George Stevens Senior Center. We're going to be there, and we can continue to build this effort to reach young people. Is that okay with you, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to do that.
All right.
The last one was a great event.
Yes, yes. So we're going to tie back in with you, and I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Warren. Stay on hold. I want to make sure that someone gets your contact information, okay?
I would like to use this time to remind you that you need to be pre-registered for the Biscuits, Grits, and Politics because there's not going to be a charge, and so we're going to have the first 100 people will have an opportunity to be there at no cost. Now, in order for that to happen, if you read the paper either online or pick up a hard copy, it gives you a deadline for registration. If you pass that registration deadline, then you might be permitted in the room, but you will not be included in the meals because we're preparing the meals based on the number of people that pre-register to be there. And so you really need to check the paper. We encourage you, if you're buying the paper, just take one copy. More than likely, your church or organization, even the libraries, the Malcolm X Library, Oak Park, the Buchanan Library, Paradise Hills, all of those libraries have free papers given to them every week that you can just pick up, even if you don't look at it online. And there are ads in those papers that give you detailed instruction for how to prepare to put these events on your calendar so that you can attend and be a part of them. And so we want to invite you to take advantage of that. We also have a promotional campaign going right now that if you download the app and sign up for the news bites that we have with your email, your name will go into a pot for a drawing that will take place early in June. And there will be three prizes. The first prize will be a $200 cash. The second prize will be $100. The third prize will be $50. But you have to download the Voice and Viewpoint app and sign up with your email address for the news bite to be included in this process. And so this is our way of building up the numbers in terms of who we serve and how, and trying to give back something in between. You can get our app in the Google or Apple store. There's no cost for it. Just like you can go and download the app for GOD Radio 1. And all of these things allow you to be in touch with us instantly because we've gone beyond print. We're putting out news every day. We're uploading a video scene to our YouTube, Facebook pages in terms of things happening in real time, just like CNN or ABC. Mm-hmm. And so we are working to become your point of contact in the community.
And with that being said, Dr. Warren, we have gotten to the end of our time, but I want to send a special kudos out to the caller that called in today. That's what it's all about, getting in and engaging. And see, it was harmless. You guys can call in, and your voice can be heard too, and we can continue to work together. Dr. Warren, great show tonight. Looking forward to seeing you on next Wednesday and Thursday with the town hall meeting that we're going to be doing on hate. We want you to get in early. Make sure that if you want to come to Biscuits, Grits, and Politics, Dr. Warren, this Biscuits, Grits, and Politics is actually going to be sponsored. So if you register, you can get in and get some biscuits and some grits without having to come up with the full price, right?
That's right. And the full price wasn't but $20, but you
Yeah.
don't even have to pay if you get within the limited number that we're making available free.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
With that being said, this is from the desk of the editor with Dr. John Warren. Y'all be blessed.